me again. It's the Seventh Lair podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Seventh Lair podcast, episode 6. I am Kieran and I'm one of your hosts. First of all, as we mentioned on our socials already, we thought it was right to mention it on here too. Dark Lord, Tamara, Emma and Misha have moved on, gone their separate ways from the podcast, and we wish them the best in their future endeavours. But for now, let there be light, as there is time to continue with our current team. Today joining us, Wildcat and Vengeance, and of course, Sarge and Emmy on other days too. How are we doing today?
Doing really good, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too shabby. Different. Every other week I've been like, oh, gig, oh, concert. This week I got a job and I'm tired. So, yeah, brilliant.
Hey, employment.
That's what's up.
Yeah, you love to see it. How are you,
Yeah, but I've been okay. I've kind of just been working away, helping out with the craniums. If you are a cranium holder, you may have noticed we're doing a bit of spooky season shenanigans. We've been getting everyone all dressed up, and me and our wonderful Mod 21 and a few of the craniums. We've all been kind of working together in our little secret society of Skull and Bones to pull together some wicked Halloween costumes that people have been sharing on Twitter, and it has filled my heart, my stone cold heart, with lots of joy. It sparks joy. So that's what I'm doing.
I have my spawn this weekend, so having fun with
love
him.
your Spawn. We love
Gonna
him.
go to the pumpkin patch tomorrow. I'm celebrating my sister's birthday today, so that's my sister.
We love your sister. Happy
birthday to her, yeah, for real. Awesome.
Yeah. Good job.
Cool, let's crack on. So this week's podcast, we wanted to delve into a few things to do with the media overall, and that is basically we're going to talk about a fair few celebrities, focusing on 3, and we're going to see like what they've done in the NFT world, and then we'll have a little discussion after to speak about the 3 of them. Kind of whether we think they're good or bad for the space of NFTs as a whole. We'll have a little chat about that then, and also after that we're going to be talking about a few media outlets and how they've kind of been over the last year, whether they were into them a year ago compared to now, whether they've become more positive or negative, and get like a view from a few sides of the media side of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And of course, we'll do the floors. We're actually recording this podcast live this week. We usually record a few hours beforehand, but this week, due to genuine chaos with my laptop deciding that my mic wanted to hear the entire world, and it was overly sensitive, we decided after I fixed that we would go and record live. So what we're going to do, we're going to close the podcast before the live questions, and then do the live questions afterwards.
Yes.
Smashing. So,
wonderful. Let's begin.
Start us off with one celebrity that we're speaking about, please.
Hello. So, yes, I have a celebrity that I'd like to talk about. You may know him, but you may not know that he was in the Twitter and NFT space until recently, because it recently came out that the let's try that again. The D-O-double-G himself, Mr. Snoop Dogg, has been collecting some NFTs, and he hasn't, been kind of doing it just like, getting little projects here and there. No, he's gone all out. So, allow me to explain a little bit of history about Snoop Dogg. So, it was revealed September, like last week or so, that he turned out to be the NFT well known as Cosimo de Medici. I hope I said that correctly. And this guy, as it turns out, happens to hold around $90 million in NFTs, which is a lot, as you could probably imagine. For comparison, my collection is probably worth about 10. No, I'm kidding. $10, that is. Anyway, joke is over. He bought his first NFT 2 months ago in August. He bought 10 CryptoPunks because, what a way to make a statement.
Yeah.
As well as several art blocks from like Squiggles, and I think he got some Meridians as well. He got some Me Bits, he got some Rocket Factory NFTs, all kind of like the big names that people would recognize and go, oh damn, So he's not messing around. He then joined Twitter a month later, revealed himself on September 20th, and everyone kind of was like, no way, there's no way this guy's actually, no way he's into it. But he has been in the NFT space for a fair bit, and he's all legit. He even released his own NFTs, called A Journey with the Dog, and a little bit of description says that this collection, A Journey with the Dog, brings together Snoop's memories from his early years with art inspired by the NFT movement, including an original track titled NFT, an instant classic that is inspired by the movement. A portion of the proceeds will support young emerging artists in the crypto space, as well as Snoop's Youth Football League, which I think is just really wholesome. Snoop has this reputation of just being one of the most wholesome dudes on the planet. And I think that just kind of solidifies that, wholesome dude. So he also collabed with Nyan Cat NFTs with a one-of-one Nyan dog, which, honestly, pretty dope. So, yeah, that's pretty much Snoop Dogg for you. I think it's really cool that he's in the space. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's awesome that Snoop Dogg. Yeah, Snoop Dogg's a lovable guy, and you'll see when we speak about the guy next why we started off with a lovable guy. So having him in the space is awesome. He brings a lot of eyes to the project. Well, let's say the project, I mean the overall space of NFTs and certain projects themselves. So having Snoop Dogg around, yeah, cool. Like I said, we'll talk about, after we talk about the main three celebs, we'll talk about overall how they impact the world of NFTs and if they are good, being celebrities, that is. But
yeah, absolutely.
Snoop Dogg's out to have fun. Fair play to him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We like Snoop Dogg. So, yeah. Yeah, it's just really cool to have people like him in the space, personally, Whether you listen to his music or not, he's a great guy. So.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Well, I heard you mentioned a celebrity that isn't quite as, I'd say, loved as Snoop Dogg, because, I feel like everyone loves that guy. Tell me who you've got for us.
So, much less loved than Snoop Dogg. We're not going to go into too much of his history, to be honest, but Mr. Logan Paul is the person I'll be chatting about for a little while. So, Logan Paul, as we mentioned, has a history. He's turned himself around a bit. No, that's fair to say, I think. Alas, let's talk about his NFT world, because that's all we care about really here. So he's been in the crypto game for quite some time. He's got a podcast called Impulsive, and he's got episodes dedicated to NFTs there, and is quite often posting about it on Twitter when he's not posting about boxing. So he actually released his first NFT in February of this year, which was something to do with Pokemon cards with only 3,000 available. His tweet about that was, my first NFT goes live in 1 hour, 3,000 available. Buyers entered to win one of 3 first edition Pokemon packs, around $40,000, and to be flown out to LA for his box break on February 27th. Let's fucking go. Now, the NFTs were they were exactly 1 Ethereum each and cost, which is quite pricey for your first NFT, but I guess he obviously believed he had something behind it. And 1 Ethereum was about $2,000 at the time. Now, during their first day on the market, 1,722 NFTs were purchased, with Ethereum, as I just mentioned, being valued at roughly $2,000 at the time. So that was for a total of $3.5 million in sales. Logan also sold $1 million worth of NFTs 30 minutes after dropping them. And the day after that, or a few days after that, sales climbed to 5 million in total. So 5 million sales from his first NFT, with a total of 2,586 NFTs sold at that time and 414 left to purchase before a company called Bondly burned the remaining supply, which will never be available again, as we've spoken about previously. So demand was obviously driven by a contest where the three winners three of the winners would receive those first edition packs of Pokemon cards and the trip to LA. So moving away from that first project of his, let's talk about his notable purchases that he's made. So he bought 2 Crypto Rocks for $155,000. He had an offer of $700,000 on his favourite CryptoPunk. The 5 million sales in his own project as above. He bought an ON1 Force NFT for 188 Ethereum, which was $623,000 at the time. And he also mentioned on Twitter that he bought 2 Bored Apes for $70,000 and then later sold just the one of them for $80,000. So obviously a big profit there.
Damn.
Now to finish on Logan Paul, earlier in the year, in August, he announced that he was starting his own cryptocurrency project, CryptoZoo, which is described as an autonomous ecosystem where owners breed, collect, and trade hybrid animals via NFTs. However, he has been slammed by the media and fans for just editing stock images rather than actually creating the images. And I haven't got an image to show on the screen at the minute, but to be honest, the evidence is really damning. Like, it is just stock photos that he's edited slightly to put like stupid faces onto animals. So not so good for Logan Paul there.
I was gonna say, that's not quite the best look. I mean, you know, whether you love the hate or guy, you know, I have my opinions on him. That's not relevant, you know. His first NFT sales, if they went well, why didn't he just stick with that? Like, you know, just from my personal view, you know, everyone's free to have their own opinion, but I just feel if he had success with the first drop, you know, what was it, 1 million within the first day or so, was it?
Overall, 5 million in the end.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 million in one day.
Yeah, that's a lot of money for one collection. Like, especially since he had the drop numbers limited and then, you know, eventually even more limited when they were burnt. Like, if he made a decent success there, I don't see why he'd then have to, you know, go and, you know, produce another project that, you know, gets slammed so hard by the media. Like, you know. I mean, I'm not saying people shouldn't try new things. Like, do not get me wrong. I think that, you know, if you've got something you want to share with the world through NFTs, please go ahead and, you know, do so. Obviously, as we'll touch on later on, you know, there is a way to, you know, to approach things, especially if you're a big celebrity and you're going to have all these eyes on you. It's just being aware of how you do it, I suppose. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Cool. Alright. But, you know, he's clearly had success and he's clearly enjoying the space. So, you know, can't hate on a guy for that. You know, just let him have his fun, I'd say. Speaking of a guy having fun, should we talk about our third celebrity?
I think we should.
Alright, so this is a guy who I'm fairly new to finding out about. I've heard his name a lot, and, you know, when I kind of realized just how involved he was in the space, I thought, you know what, okay, I'm going to check him out properly. And we also have a member of our team who actually really likes the dude and has, you know, watched him. He's a comedian, he's an actor, he's a Twitch streamer, general, you know, pretty entertaining dude, as I have learned. And his name is Andy Miller. Let's try that again. That is not his name. Andy Milonakis. I can never say his name. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so who's this guy? Well, as I said, he's an actor, comedian, Twitch streamer. He was known for having a show on MTV. And on August 25th, he asked his Twitter followers about NFTs and what communities are worth it. He also bought his first NFT, the Mad Dog Jones, which isn't actually a project I've heard about, but I've seen it since, and, you know, fair purchase. He also posed the question as to why NFT creators usually have 10,000 of one series, and if it's quote-unquote sexier to have less. Also exclaiming that he doesn't understand a demand if someone is selling 10,000. Which, I mean, I get because, that there's lots of them. If you want to drive up demand, obviously make the supply less, but hey, you want to give everyone a fair shot of at least getting them, So he then bought a couple of other NFTs. He got an ape gang, cute crying ape. He bought a koala. He was posting videos of the NFTs he bought. He bought Birdhouse. He got 2 of those. And then he took to Twitter and just decided to have a bit of fun. And was also fighting back against bots and spam. So there was a project that had, posted about, oh, hey, look, we have Andy holding one of our NFTs. And he politely pointed out something with that, saying, I appreciate this gift, but it is dishonest because you didn't contact me and you just sent it to me and now you're using my name to advertise it, so please don't do that. Which I think is a really well-mannered way to respond to such a thing, especially because they're essentially profiting off his name, and that's no bueno. No bueno. So later on, he buys a lonely alien and he bought a gutter cat. He asked Twitter to sell him 2 ETH because he wanted a cartoon rat. He later got a gutter rat, so I think that's what that was for. Rich Kid's NFT made him a custom JPEG of peas on his head, which is a reference to his show, as some of you may know. He occasionally has a bit of fun poking fun at people who kind of steal people's NFTs, like, just right-click save. So he put a funny picture of a guy and put, I copied your NFT image, now I own it for free, which is a common argument that, people outside of the crypto world often use, because, let's face it, we've all seen those comments of people saying, oh, the whole crypto thing is a scam, and, people are entitled to feel that way, but, yeah, we all have our own opinions on things, and that's entirely valid. He got a couple of people into NFTs as well, gifting them things like gutter rats. And he also even released his own NFTs as well, which was called Inedibles, and it's basically fast food that has been spray painted. I kind of find that funny, to be honest, but
I think he also created Degen, which is rally-based coins.
Oh yes, I've heard about those. Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then he's also been selling screenshots of like tweets and old writings and artwork as NFTs.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I remember speaking about tweets. I remember the current CEO of Twitter sold his first tweet as an NFT, and that one gets picked up a lot in the media, as I will discuss later. But the one thing, while Andy has fun on Twitter and fun in the NFT space, he's just as human as anyone else, really. He actually put up a tweet describing his experience with the Sevens mint that we mentioned last episode. So he said, just got burnt on the Sevens mint, put Gwai really high, almost to 1 ETH, but that was still half-arsing it. Didn't know exactly what I was doing, so the 1K that I lost is going to be seen as a tuition fee to learn all the details for the next time when there's a super busy mint. And that's what I love. When I was going through this guy's tweet, that one really stuck out to me because it shows that, even if he's a celebrity, even if he's got all this money and whatever, he still has all these experiences that a lot of us will have. Granted, we're probably not spending 1 ETH on gas, but, we all have had those moments where we've been screwed over by gas. And, whether it's $100 or, 1,000 or whatever, it's still kind of just that connecting factor for us. And he also, I have to mention this, we talk about the foxes a lot, cunning foxes, and the one thing we've always said about the foxes is that, they have a lot of energy, and that's not always a bad thing. But I say not always, because he politely asked them to cease bombing him, essentially, like spam, like messaging him. That's probably the terrible way to phrase it, but They were basically constantly tweeting at him, just like, "Hey, come join the Foxes," and he was just like, I appreciate the NFT world, I'm excited about it, but when I get bombarded with you guys all at once, it just makes me want to just not be a part of it. And again, that's a total fair way to, approach things, You want to come to the space and have fun, not get constantly bombarded every 5 minutes. And that's not hating on the Foxes, because, I see a lot of projects doing it. A lot of them do it, I think they just happen to be caught in the wrong moment for that, but, it's all good. It's all love, you know? But yeah. So he's just like anyone else. Just go and check out his Twitter, honestly, because I had a lot of joy reading through his tweets. I could sit here talking all day about his tweets. Have I missed anything important about his history in the NFT world?
No.
No, I think you've covered a decent chunk there as well. Like, we were always going to speak about him a little bit more anyway, which is why I saved him to the last. But I'm pretty sure we've covered that. So before we go to the conclusion and speak about like our personal thoughts on celebrities in the NFT world, just want to clarify something. So we're going back to Logan Paul. Who thought that would happen? So I said before that he had an NFT about Pokemon cards. I think I may have worded that badly. So to go back on that, he actually had an NFT where it was like an anime version of himself, and that's where he teamed with that team. He teamed up with the company that I mentioned before, Bondly. So yeah, basically Paul's NFTs showcase an anime character fashioned in his likeness, holding up trading cards, and accented with the logo, which is for his clothing brand Maverick. Where the problem was, where the confusion was beforehand, where the Pokemon cards came into this, he did a live unboxing of these Pokemon cards, like super rare ones or whatever, and 3 of the buyers of his NFT that I just mentioned, the anime one in his likeness, got to go to LA, all expenses paid, to go to his lot to watch him unbox these things. Very Logan Paul thing to do, to be honest. So that's where it came in with the Pokemon cards. As far as I know, no Pokemon cards were actually part of his NFT thing, if that makes sense. All clarified?
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, going forward, talking about these celebrities. In fact, well, let's do a quick little few shout outs to a few people that we thought about covering more in depth. We decided not to bother. And that was obviously our very own M Shadows, who has been quite prominent in the NFT scene. He's got his own Twitter now about NFTs, which is good to have him back on Twitter, or for the first time on Twitter, I think. He's just got Marshmello and Joel Madden from Good Charlotte into NFTs. He got them a cranium each, I believe.
Yep.
So he's obviously, we already know with the current rollout for Avenged Sevenfold, we haven't been private about that before, to be honest. The current NFT rollout for Avenged Sevenfold has been his main focus for the last however many months, and which is why we're part of the reason why we are on this Discord right now doing this live show.
Yep.
On top of that, Mike Shinoda, who is part of the Bones Club, I want to say, among many other projects.
So. Yeah, I know Brandon Saller is also in there as well.
Yeah, Brandon Saller, Mike Shinoda, and obviously M Shadows.
Yeah.
We had a little statement from Ren. So if you wanted to hear what Ren had to say, who's one of the project people from Bones, I think that's on last week's episode. 2 weeks ago episode. But yes, he owns no bones apparently, though, according to Ross in the chat at the moment. So that's interesting. It's just an honorary member. Cool. Okay. So yeah, cheers there, Ross, for that point, and also cheers to Dark Lord for shouting out the correction on the Logan Paul thing a moment ago. Nice one, appreciate it. Cool. So, moving on to our thoughts of the main 3 celebrities. I'll start. I think celebrities are good for the NFT world. It brings light to certain projects, and just overall, if it brings more focus to it, gets more people engaged, we get more of a community. It's great. I'm not saying, however, that celebrities are always good for projects. I do feel like some projects can rely on celebrity status to get them somewhere, where it's not always going to work out that way. And I think that those projects that solely focus on getting big names behind them will sometimes fail.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. It's just, I think, celebrities in the NFT space can, really help, because a lot of people are still very skeptical about it. Like, and understandably so. It is a lot. It does, in some ways, to some people, seem quite fishy. And, people are going to be like, oh, this is just a rich man's game, all this, all that. When there are certain, teams out there that are doing their best to make it fair for their fans and do everything they can to, encourage them to just learn about the space and just, experiment and explore with it. Obviously, you do have to be careful of the cash grabs. Like, those are inevitable. And there are some celebrities who have, kind of done NFTs that lean more towards that. But then there are some celebrities that are generally just, trying to educate or trying to, encourage or just have fun with the space. So it really depends on, just how it's done, what the tone is, you just got to be very aware of what you're doing in the space. But, if you're being mindful and just having a good time, then surely you should be okay. And I think it can help encourage people into the space. So, yeah. Overall, not bad.
Yeah, I think, like I say, it can be helpful. Definitely can be helpful, but it has its own issues as well. I just, like, my personal opinion, and I'm not trying to suggest anything overall, is just don't always go based. If you see a celebrity plug in something, don't automatically assume that it's going to be a big project or a successful one, because it's not necessarily always the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Always do your own research.
Yeah.
Always.
Cool.
That is the number one step. Anyway, yes.
Moving on to medias. So we're going to talk about 3 notable magazines you probably already heard. You probably heard their names already beforehand. So, which one are we starting with? We're starting with
I think Forbes, I believe. I think we're
Forbes.
going to start with Forbes.
Fire away.
Forbes is one of those big magazines. Obviously, with the NFT kind of boom, I suppose, over the last year, they've been kind of picking up on it. You type NFT into the search bar on their website, and you get 352 results. And all of these articles cover a whole wide array of different things. So it covers, kind of the main headlines of who's getting involved in the space, what the trends are, and it kind of takes an approach from both sides. There's an educational aspect to it, and go like, okay, here's what NFTs are, because a lot of you are probably just like, what is NFT? What are we doing with this? Where did this come from? And then there's also just talking about, what celebrities have been buying what. And, there's also a little bit about what NFTs can actually do for the future. So there's one article I found that I thought was quite a positive one, actually. And it's called How Tokenomics and NFT Art Galleries Help Autistic People Celebrate Their Creativity. And I had a look through it, and I honestly thought it was a nice, refreshing, positive kind of, just, it covers a topic that, a lot of people might overlook, Obviously, in the NFT space, we're all behind our screens, and, we don't know the other person's story. We don't know what they've gone through in their life. So for an article to kind of highlight something like that, I think it's a great thing. And it helps just encourage people and say, hey, look, this is a space that everyone's included in, So I thought that was really good. There's also articles that, talk about people will pay for comics NFTs. Why does it matter? And it kind of just outlines, why collectors would want to put a high price on ownership. Saying that, some decisions can be economically irrational and clients are primarily relationship driven, not financially driven. But it just talks about kind of where the value is in these kind of things. And kind of talks about the psychology behind it as well, like why people fall in love with what they perceive as their possession, even if they don't actually own it. But obviously, that kind of, that's what NFTs do. They allow you to have full ownership of things. And, I think it's good that a big magazine website like this covers that kind of topic because, they have a far-reaching audience, and that kind of perspective can kind of help at least inform, even if people are just like, yeah, well, I don't want to get involved anyway. It still brings people in and just gives them that knowledge for them to do what they wish with. They also have an article that just tells you, how do NFTs work? Here's the forms they come in, like art, GIFs, videos, sports highlights, collectibles, avatars, all that kind of stuff. And it tells you what they're used for, how to buy them. And, if these are kind of more recent articles, but it seems that, 352 articles, just by typing in NFT, that's not typing in crypto or anything, this is just strictly for NFTs. I would assume that's kind of a trend that's been going on because they're still talking about it. So, yeah.
Exactly. It's good that it's been spoken about, just not necessarily in the light that it's been spoken about sometimes.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm going to move on to Rolling Stone.
Go on then.
So, they've had they're speaking about it quite a lot. They've had 30 plus articles based on NFTs, in recent times. Mostly focused on the music side, as Rolling Stone is a music magazine, but also includes general celebrities or noteworthy people. It doesn't often go too in depth on most of it. It just says who's doing what and when. However, on occasion, the articles do go on for longer, elaborating on the space and circumstances surrounding certain drops. So they did do a recent article where they discussed Lindsay Lohan's new NFT, and they do talk about it in a more negative light. You can check that article out if you want, but it does mention furries quite a lot. They've also covered Tony Lane's and his botched NFT drop, which talks about the wrong way to release an NFT in the music space. One that our very own, as before mentioned, Shadows tweeted out. They've had discussions and articles about the environmental impact topic, which of course is an important topic, but again they put that in a bad light too. And there are also articles which explain how NFTs could help to change different industries, which I guess is more on a pro. They spoke in that one about gaming ticketing royalties as well. So I've got a lot less written up. You're a lot more prepared than I am on that one, but that's what Rolling Stone have to say. They're not exactly in the best light of NFTs at this current stage.
Yeah, the one thing I will say with their environmental impact topic is it covers both sides, but the one thing I noticed about their headlines is that it can be quite, some of them can be a bit clickbaity.
Yeah, I agree.
And when they do cover artists releasing NFTs, it's not as in depth as some of the other articles I've seen from other pages, so it just kind of tells you, this is the NFT they're selling, this is, what the band or the artist or whatever have to say about it. Make your own decisions. That's basically the gist of what I saw from some of their articles. So I feel like, whereas other pages often tend to go in a bit more detail, I feel like, they could be expanded onto, help educate people further. Because, you see it all the time when bands release NFTs and people are just like, what the hell is this? Why are you doing this? Stop it. There's been several bands that have actually pulled their NFT releases because of that sort of thing.
Yeah. Smashing.
So yeah, but there is one other media outlet, quite a big one, quite a popular one, that has gone all out with their NFT coverage. And they even released their own NFTs recently as well. And that is Time magazine. Now, these guys are pretty big. When I went to do research on these guys, we were kind of aiming to talk about how they've gone like throughout their history of covering NFTs. I couldn't quite do that because they had 1,600 articles when I typed in NFT. That's a lot of articles.
Yeah.
And they all have very good purposes as well. Like, it's not just, kind of small things. It is interviews with the artists. It is, well, with their timepieces collection. They cover all kinds of crypto news, both positive and negative, from, like a lot of times where Bitcoin was totally plummeting and things like that. What currencies are most popular, what celebs are getting involved, dips and spikes, as I mentioned, the environmental impact, lots of resources for newcomers as well, which I feel is absolutely brilliant. So they go quite in depth with their articles. So when they talk about, oh, the celebrity's doing this, they then go and say, okay, but you're probably confused. Let us explain what all of this means. It also discusses the real world usage of crypto. So there was an article they talked about, whether you should use crypto like cash, like, pay for everyday items using crypto. And they talked about, the kind of pros and cons of that. So, I don't know, say if I'm pretty sure people might know the story of how a guy paid for his pizza using Bitcoin. At the time, wasn't worth very much, and now it's worth, lots of money. So, yeah, that just imagine being that guy. I mean, he's openly said that he's happy with his decision. He enjoyed the pizza, so
Well, yes, I'd also quite enjoy $100,000 to be honest, but sure.
Hey man, it must have been a good pizza for him to be comfortable with that, But it gives you those kind of scenarios, just like, hey, this is what could happen in the future, so let's talk about it. And I just found that as I went through their articles, it was very informative, very factual, aims to, be neutral to both sides and kind of be fair, but also being like, okay, this is what's going on. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna make sure that everyone's informed about it. And I guess it does lean a bit more in a positive light because of that, but it's not like aimless shilling. It has a good purpose, I feel. You know. And I know they recently just released their own NFTs, so they released 3 different magazine covers for auction in March, and then just recently they released another collection, the aforementioned timepieces that started at 0.1 ETH. They had 4,676 pieces, which allowed owners access to all of time.com through the 100th anniversary in 2023. So I think you could also use crypto to buy their subscriptions, so you only get to read a certain amount of articles for free, and then you have to get a subscription, which, that's their model. Okay. But they also offer in-person events and all kinds of things like that. So yeah, I think that for a big media outlet like Time to be so involved with the space, I personally think that's a good thing.
It definitely helps.
What do you think?
Yeah. Well, let's cover all media as a whole. Time. Any magazine talking about NFT helps, and there's the old phrase that any press is good press. That's not necessarily true. It's good that it's getting more eyes on it, no doubt. But if there's slander in one way or the other, or if sometimes it can be detrimental to a project or a overall space if something is too for or too against. We need that kind of middle ground. There's no point saying that NFT is the best thing in the world and there's no issue with them, because we know that's not the case. Like the environment issue and stuff like that, there's things that need to be worked on. But there's also no help in there if they're just going to slate them entirely, whilst not saying about the beneficial things about the decentralization, for example, and the blockchain. So the more focus we have on NFTs in the media, the better. It's going to be better because it's going to help us out overall. Same with celebrities. The more eyes on the space, in my opinion, is better for us, no doubt. But we just need to have that middle ground where we have a lot more factual things, less bias statements or headlines that automatically make people think a certain thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as the media should be, it should be factual and neutral to a point. It should be just, you know, sharing the facts. Which is why obviously I mentioned with the Rolling Stones kind of more clickbaity articles for that environmental one, because it was literally just like, is it too late to save, like, to make these changes to save the environment? Because obviously we spoke about proof of work and proof of stake in a previous episode, and, you know, the environmental impacts of that. So, you know, and that's something that's going to catch people's eye, because the one thing people always look at is, you know, they always mention the environmental side, and that is a valid concern. Like, absolutely, we all want to do our best to protect the environment, because, you know, we live here, the animals live here, plants live here, we've got to protect everything, right? But, you know, it's definitely it is definitely a talking point. So when you're reporting on such a thing, you want to make sure that, you know, you're not immediately leaning one side or the other. You want to just make sure that, hello, here is the information you need to know. Here's what we need to do. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. I think that basically closes up that portion of the main topic of the podcast this week. Unless you have anything else to add.
No, I'm just... I've learned a lot this week, I'd say, because, you know, a lot of the time I just kind of enjoy myself in the space and in the communities that I love. So just learning more about who's in the space and, you know, how the news on the space is being reported, it's definitely been an eye-opener, you know?
It's kind of ironic, because I would personally say this is episode 6. This is probably the least educational based episode we've had.
Yeah,
it's more
probably.
just a point of interest, maybe.
Yeah.
Which we will do now and again as well. We will touch on things that are less like in your face educational, like how things are done, and more just, look, this could be a point of interest. Like, we can't skip over celebrities when more and more are getting into it. Like, Snoop Dogg was the big turning point for this episode, I think, where we thought, right, that's such a big name. But yeah, I've ended up learning loads whilst like doing a little bits of research in the last week or so. Cool. So to close us off we're going to do flaws now, like we do at the end of every podcast. And then for the people that are listening live now, like I said, we don't usually record live. We're going to close the podcast, do our little outro video. None of us will talk for like 30 seconds. And after that, we'll open up the questions for the floor. So if you've got any questions, stick them in the VC chat, text chat that is. So going on to flaws, Felicia, if you are most ready.
Okay. All right, we have CryptoPunks at 124.47, Bored Ape Yacht Club at 39.989, Bored Ape Kennel Club at 2.9, Mutant Ape Yacht Club at 4.29, Wicked Craniums at 0.35, Wicked Stallions at 0.04, Bones Club Heritage at 0.079, Bones Club V2 at 0.02 and still minting, Winterton Collection is 0.33, Birdhouse is 0.045, Koala Intelligence Agency is 0.5, Lazy Lions 2.63, Cryptoads 5.45, ETH Aliens is 0.037, and Cool Cats at 10.2.
Damn, those cool cats have gone up, eh?
Yeah, so 2 things I want to point out. One, for the people that are watching this video on YouTube rather than live, who can actually see the screens that I'm putting up. My bad on this one. I just didn't load up the screens properly, and some of those numbers that you're hearing are wrong because they've just reloaded with their new time. So brilliant on that one on my part. So I do apologise for the YouTube watchers now, but you get the idea. And secondly, pointing out those cool cats at the end with the 10.2. They are the 3rd ever 10,000 numbered project, like the Craniums or whatever, to go past the 10 Ethereum floor mark. So that's really fucking cool for them.
Wow, congrats to those guys. I've always wanted a cool cat, I'm not gonna lie. I really dig the art, to be honest. And the cats, so.
So, like I said, to the people listening live, we'll take your questions in a second, but we'll do our little closing talk so I can end the recording. So for anyone watching on YouTube, leave some comments below if you want us to cover anything specific. If you want more how-to videos, let us know. As for next week, not next week, in 2 weeks' time for our next episode, episode 7, we haven't fully decided what we're doing yet, but we might go off-field slightly and do something completely different. But we'll update on Twitter once we have an idea of that. So for now, we will catch you next time. Bye all.
See you later, everyone.
Bye.